Thank you, Kate, and good afternoon, everyone. I had to bring my own water up. I'm not used to talking as much as I have this morning. Our company's gone through a major renaissance over the last few months. We've made several large additions to our tenement portfolio, and we've made a few corporate changes as well. Have a look at there's 5 new uranium projects come into the company, 4 in the Northern Territory, 1 in Queensland. They're all at various stages of advancement. The Queensland project is our most advanced at Oasis, followed closely by the Douglas River project in the Northern Territory. We've also made some corporate changes. We retired debt. We've sold a few assets out of the company and used the cash to retire a loan we have with Pioneer Resources. We now have enough cash to go forward, but the most important thing on that screen is our pathetic market cap of 20 million and a low share price of 4.5 cents. So I'm here to tell you how we're going to build on that and get this company back to where it should be. The Alpha Torbanite project has been owned by this company for 45 years. And I came into the company about 5 years ago, and on the basis of SRK, who are the project managers, we decided we'd run with it as our major project. I can tell you the last 5 years with Alpha have been quite tortuous. The fundamentals of the project remain very positive. It's a big resource, 28 million tonnes. It's open in all directions along strike, and it could be a much bigger resource. The price of bitumen is held up over 1,500 Australian a tonne. We've spent $7 million there, and it's been quite good in that we've received $3 million back from the government in R&D refunds. We're on test program 6, and the testing regime for Alpha, as I say, has been tortuous. The problem with Alpha that we've had is that not many people in the world do bitumen testing, and certainly private companies that are available to a company like Greenvale are very few and far between. So right now we're on test program 6, which is being conducted at the University of Jordan, and the object there is to ensure that we have a process route that produces C170 or Australian standard bitumen. And that has been our issue over the last couple of years, is getting this bitumen product up to C170. After the program's finished at the Jordan University, we then moved to Monash University in Melbourne, where they will produce bulk samples, and that program will take about another 6 months. And if those bulk samples meet the standard, they then go to Technics in New Zealand for certification for Australian standard. So quite an arduous process, but hopefully by the end of this year that process will be wrapped up. It'll be a very valuable project if we can get it there. I want to talk about the global nuclear industry. Really the reason we're going into uranium in a big way is because the nuclear industry has for many years been in the doldrums. It's had competition from coal plants, coal-fired energy, oil and gas, and the fossil fuel industry really has made nuclear difficult to be competitive. At one time, the nuclear industry provided 15% of global energy. Today it's down to about 9%. About 10 years ago, a lot of countries, particularly in Western Europe, began shutting down their nuclear plants, swing over to renewables. Those countries, and particularly in Germany and Italy, have had their economies smashed. Their energy prices have increased by 50%. And a recent survey in Germany of the manufacturing industry indicated 40% of manufacturing in Germany wanted to move out to countries with more reliable energy. So we've seen nuclear coming back into fashion. Nuclear, of course, is emissions free. It's expensive to build nuclear reactors, but it is the only energy capable of taking the world to emissions-free. And at the current state of play is there's 440 reactors globally in 32 countries. There's 68 reactors under construction right now, mostly in China, the US and Western Europe. They're rebuilding their nuclear industry. There's 110 reactors planned to start construction in the next 5 years. And there's 32 countries, there's 14 large banks, and there's a whole lot of big companies, big smart companies investing in uranium now that are standing behind the nuclear industry trebling in size over the next 25 years. So that all augurs well for the uranium industry because uranium is the fuel for nuclear plants and there's no competition. We're also seeing Generation 4 reactors being built now, and these reactors are modular, advanced modular reactors, and small modular reactors, which are really looking to revolutionise the way how nuclear power is delivered, and hopefully the cost will be coming down very shortly. That's what a small modular reactor looks like. That's the Rolls-Royce reactor on the left. That's 480 megawatts. And on the right, it's a French reactor, which is planned to be built. Their first joint ventures in the Netherlands. They've got 3 of those planned to be built. They're pretty good-looking kits, but the thing is they don't take up much space. Unlike renewables, they are pretty tight. They deliver a lot of power. They deliver it reliably. And once they're up and running, they're very competitive on their pricing. Excuse me, I have to stop for a drink. Too much talking. The Oasis project we recently acquired in Queensland. It was discovered 50 years ago by Esso. There was a lot of uranium exploration done in Australia in the 50s, 60s and 70s. There was a brief period in the 2000s where uranium had a temporary renaissance. But pretty much the last 15 years, there's been very little exploration for uranium in Australia. Remarkably, Australia has more uranium than any other country in the world. We have 28% of the world's uranium reserves, and that's without a sustained exploration effort by the juniors. If the juniors got stuck into exploring for uranium, it wouldn't surprise me if Australia ended up with half the uranium reserves in the world. That makes Australia a key player in the nuclear industry going forward. The current Labor government mightn't like that, but I don't think they're going to be around for long. So hopefully we get a more enlightened government so we can take advantage of this enormous wealth lying under the ground in our country. So Oasis is a classic. It was discovered in 1977. Then nothing happened for 30 years. And then a couple of small companies went back in and did some test drilling. But Esso only drilled out a 300-metre strike length of a 1.5 kilometre zone, and they intersected a lot of very high-grade mineralisation. The companies that followed did more of the same. They checked Esso's drilling. They did some trenching along strike. They extended the extent of the mineralisation another 300 metres to the south, but didn't drill test it. So it's really an amazing opportunity. The project on the you see those big red blobs. They're radiometric anomalies, and there's a little blob over on the left of those big blobs. That's the Oasis radiometric anomaly. It wasn't even a big anomaly. It was just the closest work site, the easiest one to get to. There was a track right to it. This is all on pastoral leases with pastoral tracks. But the big anomalies and the big structures haven't ever been drilled. It's a block of rocks that have been intruded by a big alkaline granite system, alaskites. and it looks to us like a classic intrusive elascite-style uranium deposit. These are typically very big deposits. Rossing in Namibia is the classic type example of that kind of deposit. We are pretty confident we've got something very similar to that here. We start exploration in April. We wouldn't be able to get on the ground now anyway. Central Queensland's pretty flooded. So an exciting project with what we regard as world-class potential. In the Northern Territory, we've picked up 4 projects. They all have the same pedigree. These are all large targets with very significant radiometric anomalies over them, all discovered in 1999 by a regional survey funded by Geoscience Australia. And only one of those projects has ever been followed up. There were other projects in the Northern Territory at the time that were followed up and discoveries were made based on that program, but these particular ones, with the exception of Douglas River, were never followed up. We've recently flown, or at the end of last winter, we flew close-spaced airborne magnetics and radiometrics over the tenements. We're still modelling all that data. The first target that we're hitting, though, will be Douglas River South. Douglas River's just south of the Thunderball uranium deposit, which is held by Petronas. And Douglas River was drill ready about 14 years ago. A company called United Uranium were preparing to drill Douglas River, and then I think they ran out of money because it never happened. It's a 13-kilometre long radiometric anomaly covering a paleo channel, and it's sitting just below a very hot granite, which is the same source, we believe, of uranium for the Thunderball deposit. So that's they did a lot of field work, followed up with surface sampling, and that project is drill ready, and that'll be one of the first projects that we hit in the Territory. The other projects all have known sources of uranium, hot rocks, hot granites or granite derivatives, and they also have drainage patterns flowing off the hot rocks. They have carbonaceous rocks which act as a chemical precipitate for the uranium to fall out of solution and concentrate in areas within the paleo channel. So where we have radiometric highs covering interpreted magnetic structure is where we will be drilling. We will get on the ground at the Henbury in the Amadeus Basin, which is just near Alice Springs. That will be an early project for us to investigate. That is very close to the Pamela and Angela uranium projects. The radiometric anomaly over Henbury is about 12 k's long, and there are prospective ferry calcretes cropping out on that tenement, so we'll be sending a geology team out there as soon as the wet lifts. We have a geothermal project. It's not granted yet, so probably no point talking too much about it. They are the hottest rocks in Australia, in the Millingarra Basin. We've had a couple of cash offers on the table for this project, so even though they are hot rocks and it's very prospective, it's probably a bit pricey for us to be exploring at this stage. I really want to focus on the uranium, and I think that's where our biggest bang for our buck will be, in discovering a major uranium deposit at a time when the nuclear industry is going to be rapidly expanding. I won't read all that out to you. I think it's a great time to invest in uranium, and I don't think you're going to find anything cheaper than Greenvale. Thank you.